Becky, and I'm back today with a weight loss video. I have a couple videos that are going to be coming up this month that are all about weight loss and getting healthy. And so if you've seen my videos, you've noticed probably in one or two or a couple of them, I have mentioned that I've lost 28 pounds so far in 2014. I started, I guess pretty much like everybody, I thought on January 1st, I'm like, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to blah, 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 and it's going to be, this is the year I'm going to do it. And then January 1st came and it didn't happen. And then February came by and it came and went and it didn't happen in February. And it wasn't until March of 2014 that I actually just gave up on waiting till Monday to start. Wait till Monday to start. Oh, I messed up today, I'm going to wait till Monday. I didn't wait till Monday. I started right then. I started in March, and I had taken some before pictures in January, but then I just never did anything else. I didn't start exercising or eating right yet. And so when March came, I had had enough. I was the heaviest that I had ever been in my entire life. I was unhappy. None of my clothes fit. I didn't like the clothes that I had that did fit, vaguely. And I didn't want to buy new clothes at the weight that I was at, and I thought this cannot keep going on forever. And my husband, I think, actually kind of really was the defining moment for me, because he had started to use an app called My Plate Calorie Tracker. It's a Live Strong app, and I thought, you know, that's silly. I don't need to count calories. I've lost a little bit of weight before, so I know kind of what to do. And so I didn't really think much about it, but I would see him, we would go out to eat, and he would check the app and to see how many calories he was going to be eating with a certain meal. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll look into it and see what that's all about. So that's kind of where this whole thing started, was just that one little app. Would I have been able to lose 28 pounds without it? Probably so, but I definitely feel like it really did help me. It got me the motivation that I needed, and it really helped me to see where I had some problems with my diet, because I thought that I didn't really think I ate that much. And come to find out, there was a lot of calories here and there that were really kind of sabotaging any success that I would have had. So I'll explain that later, but I've got a lot of notes here because it's kind of a big deal. I've got a lot of suggestions for you guys, and I just wanted to share this with you because it is January. A lot of people have set weight loss goals as a New Year's resolution, and I would encourage you to not call it necessarily a New Year's resolution, but more of a lifestyle, because losing weight and being healthy is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so, you know, if you're thinking of it as a diet, I feel like that you're already kind of setting yourself up for success, because a diet is a temporary term. It doesn't mean that you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And that's where it gets dangerous, because people can lose weight on diets, but it's when you actually change your lifestyle, that's when you're actually going to lose weight and keep it off. So I would really encourage you to not call it a diet and not necessarily call it a New Year's resolution, because I feel like that's kind of a cliche term that people use, and most people do not stick to their New Year's resolutions. You are trying to create a new lifestyle of being healthy, and in turn losing weight because you are being more healthy and making better choices and exercising. So that was a very rambly intro. But like I mentioned, I did start using the My Plate Calorie Tracker, and I'll link the App Store link for that below if you want to try it out. It was free. I guess there might have been an upgrade, I'm not really sure. I only ever used the free app download, and it was plenty sufficient for what I needed. Like I mentioned, I thought I knew how many calories that I was eating, and I didn't really think about necessarily measuring things out, because I did not want to be the type of dieter that had to count calories. I hated the way that sounded, and I knew that I would not keep up with that long term. But like I mentioned, my husband was using the app, and I thought, well, I'll just try it out and see. So what you do is you download it, and you tell him how much you weigh and how tall you are and how much weight you want to lose per week. And based on that information, it gives you an idea of how many calories you should be consuming per day. And so then as you're going throughout your day, you can manually enter the food in based on looking at the nutrition information on the back of each food product. And most products were already in the database, so you could actually scan, there was a scanner, you could actually scan the barcode on like a bag of bread, and it would tell you how many calories per serving that bread was. And so that made it really easy to add up your meals really quickly. It would also keep track of things that you ate frequently and keep it kind of close to the top where you would need to add it to your meals. And of course it has a spot for breakfast, lunch, dinners, and snacks. And then the best part, I feel like, for me was the exercise section, because when I would exercise, I would look in there and find what I had just done. Let's say I walked for 40 minutes at 3.5 miles an hour. It would tell me a general idea of how many calories that I burned. Obviously it's not exact because it's not a heart rate monitor, so it doesn't know exactly how many calories, but it gives you a good reference. And so then by the time I had gone through the day and entered my calories in, and then I would record my exercise, it would tell me if I had a deficit that day. And you have to create that deficit in order to lose weight. You have to be putting out more calories than you actually take in. So if there's no deficit, you're not going to lose weight. So that's the important thing to see. And I found that motivating to see, even if it was a general idea of what the deficit might be. It did tell me that I had maybe I had a 200 calorie deficit or a 300 calorie deficit for the day. Whatever it might have been, I felt that was helpful to keep me motivated. Using some sort of app for calorie tracking, whether it be the one I mentioned or not, is a really nice tool to give you a true look at how many calories you're really eating realistically, because a lot of times, like I said, we always underestimate the amount of calories that we were taking in. That way, it gives you a nice way to make improvements when you realize, hey, I'm drinking, 3 sodas a day. That alone is like, 800 calories or whatever it might be. It shows you, where places that you can make improvements. The one thing I didn't like about that app in particular was I felt like as I lost weight and I would record that into the app, it would tell me, of course, it would decrease the amount of calories that I was allowed to have. The less weight you had to lose, the less calories it was allowing you to consume. And so it got to a point where after I lost about 18 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, it got really low and it seemed like an unhealthy amount for me. So that's pretty much when I stopped using the app, was just because I thought I'm not going to eat less than 1,000 calories a day. For my height and my activity level, that's not enough. And so I quit using it really around that time, but I still think it's a great app, especially for free. I do think it's a good place to start if you don't know where to start. Now, I only drink water if I'm at home, except in the morning I do have a little tiny glass of orange juice now, just especially in the wintertime to try to make sure that I'm getting enough vitamin C. But if I eat out, I allow myself to have tea or Coke. But try to have your waiter, if you're at a place with a waiter, don't let them bring your soda or your tea or whatever until your food comes, because you're going to be sitting there mindlessly drinking and waiting for your food and talking, and you're going to drink, and the next thing you know, you've drank a whole glass of whatever and your food isn't even there yet. So that is one suggestion I would make. If you're going to drink some kind of a soft drink or a tea or whatever when you're out, don't get your drink until your food comes. You can drink water if you want until the food comes. Another tip is I exercise 5 to 7 days a week. That was really what I felt I needed to do to get myself into a habit of exercising and to make it a daily part of my life, because I am busy, we're all busy, and if you don't schedule it in and make it a daily priority, then it's just going to fall by the wayside and you're going to forget about it, and you're going to have other things that need to be done maybe, and that's not going to happen. So I try to make it as much part of my daily life as possible, not just a couple days a week, 5 to 7 days a week. And one of the main points of that is no matter how badly I ate that day, I exercised anyway. And a lot of times when we've had a bad day and we had like a big giant piece of cake, or we went out and had a Big Mac or whatever it was, we think, oh, I've already screwed up today, I'm just going to start again tomorrow. Don't start again tomorrow. No matter what you ate, exercise anyway. I really feel like that was the key to my success so far, is just making sure that no matter what mistakes I made, I picked right back up where I was supposed to be. I would not screw up the next meal just because I messed up lunch. And if I had dessert, exercise anyway. I can't stress how important that really is, because once you get into that mentality of, oh, I've messed up anyway, I'm going to start again tomorrow, it is a never-ending vicious cycle that it's very hard to get out of. So exercise anyway, no matter what you did. It's better to go ahead and splurge and have a big piece of cake and a milkshake and exercise than it is to have a big piece of cake and a milkshake and don't exercise. Another way that I did it was to let myself have a little bit of everything, but only in moderation. And I knew that I would not stick to anything if I denied myself something. So I made sure that I didn't want to be like, oh, I can't eat at this place because it would be against my diet. Or I can't have brownies ever again because I'm trying to lose weight. I mean, that's not realistic, because I knew I would not stick with that. And knowing yourself and knowing your own kind of tricks that you play on yourself is kind of an essential part of losing weight, because you can help to avoid those pitfalls if you know yourself. So I didn't stop eating a single thing that I loved. I just ate less of it and less often. I also didn't give up bread. I was not willing to give up bread. That's not a realistic thing for me to give up, because I love bread. Maybe if I had a hamburger sometimes, I might remove the top bun and just eat the bottom bun with it, or something like that. Or an open-faced sandwich instead of 2 slices of bread. We also switched to whole wheat bread instead of white bread. I mean, those are things that we did, but I did not give up bread, and I'm not going to give up bread unless I have to. I also still managed to have Chili's, chips, and salsa every Saturday night. I mean, that's something that I knew I wanted to do. My husband and I usually watch a movie on Saturday night. That's our movie night, and I wanted to have a snack to go with it. And so, I mean, I would let myself have something else if I wanted brownies or a cookie or whatever, but for some reason I like Chili's chips and salsa. So I had that pretty much every Saturday night, and I still managed to lose weight. It's just because I would eat it, and I would still exercise that day, and I would still exercise the next day. I wouldn't give up and wait till Monday to start over on my diet just because I had chips and salsa. It's also important to let yourself cheat and have just a big fattening meal whenever, every so often. The key to that, though, is again, make sure that you go back to eating healthy with the next meal. That way you can still incorporate and have all the things that you love. It's just you're not having it and then letting it ruin your all the success that you've had so far. I also cooked a lot more at home. Now at lunch we do usually go out I don't know, we homeschool, so we should, I guess, stay home for lunch, but like I mentioned before, I feel like we need to get out of the house. I need to get out of the house. The kids usually want to go out somewhere for lunch, so we do usually eat out for lunch, but I have cooked a lot more at home, not just because it's better financially for our family, but also because it is healthier. I can control what goes in it. I know whether or not it's organic, because I cook pretty much all organically. And I knew if I was at home, I would drink water, because we don't buy soda. Soda's not even in our house. We have milk and water and apple juice and orange juice. That's the only thing we have in this house to drink, and of course water. So I knew if I ate at home, I would drink water. And so that kind of was helping to set myself up for success by being at home, making healthier meals and choices at home, and also drinking water. If I did eat out, I would go ahead and in the beginning, I went ahead and used the app to see a lot of restaurants' foods were loaded into the app, or you can also check the restaurant's website before you go somewhere and check their nutritional information. They usually have all that stuff on their website where you can see how many calories and how much sodium and how much fat is in pretty much everything on their menu. Things that I was surprised that would seem low calorie really weren't, and so that's a really good way to see ahead of time before you go out. Even if somebody asks you out, with friends to go out to eat, you don't have to sit there at dinner and be like, oh, I can't get this because it's fattening. Go ahead and do your research ahead of time. Find out how much, a couple different things on the menu you might want to get that are a decent calorie amount. And then that way when you go there, you're already prepared. You know what you're getting in. You know what you're going to be eating. And I've mentioned this in several videos, but I think, again, with anything, but especially weight loss, the key to success is to set smaller goals that are ultimately trying to reach a bigger goal. If you sit there and think in your head that you have to lose 50 pounds, that seems very overwhelming and demotivating, because it just seems like such a big undertaking. But if you set smaller goals and kind of keep those either on I literally kept mine on a calendar. I would write every 9 days. I had it where I wanted to lose 1 pound. I know they say 1 pound a week is healthy, but based on my activity level when I first started and the app and the calories that I was taking in, I gave myself 9 days to lose a pound. I felt like that was a healthy amount of time, a realistic amount of time. And so I would go ahead and write that on my calendar, and then I would weigh every 9th day and see if I met that goal. If I didn't, I would readjust the goals that I had set for the next 9 days and write down the actual weight that I was on that 9th day. I also kept an exercise log that I know the app did have a place to put exercise, but I like to actually write it down and keep it. It's hanging over there by my computer. I have like a magnetic strip and it hangs right there. And every time I exercise, I write down what I did and how long I spent exercising. I hadn't kept the first part of the years last year, and I really wish I had, but I'm gonna keep this year's because I'm really curious to see after the end of the year how many miles that I have walked and ran, and then how many different times I exercised. And it was really fun too, because keeping it written down like that, I would make a column and I had like 30 rows, and so after 30 days, a month would have passed, obviously, pretty much. I like to look at that and see how many days of a month did I exercise, and if it wasn't enough, then I could set a goal the next month. Okay, now this month I want to work out 25 days of 30 days, or whatever it was. So it was just kind of a fun little game I played with myself, but it was nice to have it written down, to see it every day, and it was a good motivational thing, I think, for me. I think where I used to fail in weight loss goals was, like I mentioned, I would set a big goal, like I want to lose 30 pounds, and then I wouldn't make any smaller steps that were going to lead me to that point. And so it was kind of setting myself up for failure. Any goal you want to make, I feel like little bitty baby step goals are really the key to success, because it spreads things out over time, it makes it more manageable, more realistic, and it makes it easier to make adjustments where, you might get into the middle of a giant project and realize that you're not making any progress. And when you're making baby goals and you're keeping track of writing those down, it really helps you to build momentum on your goals and to look back and see how far you really have come from the beginning. I also literally wrote exercise on my daily to-do list. I mean, I did mention that lists are very important to me, and so I make a daily to-do list every night before bed. And it's broken down into categories based on calls and emails to make, housework, homeschool, crafts, things to do at night specifically. And I would put exercise on my to-do list, because if I didn't put it on my to-do list, it would slip by. It would slip out of my mind. The day would get away from me, and with so many things going on, I would just not make time for it. And so then I would either be doing it so late at night and it was exhausting, or I would just forget it altogether and think, well, I'll just exercise tomorrow. And then it would just happen over and over again. But I also try to plan what exercise I was going to do the next day. And that became really important when I had a lot more choices. Like when I first started working out, I didn't have as many DVDs, didn't have as many YouTube channels that I like to watch. And so I would just kind of be like, I would wait till right before I exercised and be like, okay, what do I want to do? And then I would sit around for 20 minutes trying to figure out what I would want to do, or I'd start a video and then be kind of like, oh, I don't want to do that one. So I would go ahead and try to plan out the night before what I was going to be doing the next day. That way when that day came, I kind of already knew, and my head was already wrapped around the fact of, okay, it's abs day and it's running day, or it's arms and cardio, you know, whatever. I already had it kind of in my brain. That was what I was going to do, and it took a lot of the guesswork out of it and a lot of the stalling and procrastinating out of it, because that's something I think we all probably do when we don't want to exercise. And maybe you also want to take before pictures. I did take before pictures, like I mentioned, in January, even though I didn't really start exercising until March. And I think it's important to take pictures, even if nobody else is going to see them. You don't have to plaster them all over the internet. But I think it's important to take pictures, especially for me, because it's hard to measure yourself. And a lot of people do suggest measuring yourself, and you can still certainly do that if you want to. And I knew it was going to be hard for me to measure myself in the same spot exactly every time to you know, keep track of that. So I didn't measure at all. I just took pictures, and of course I weighed myself and wrote down my starting weight. And I would continue to write down my weight every 9 days or so. But I mean, other than that, I think it's a good way to keep track of your weight, and especially because a lot of you see yourself every day, so you don't necessarily notice maybe that your thighs are smaller, or your love handles are smaller, or your arms are more toned. You might not notice those things every day in the mirror, but if you look back at a picture you took 6 months ago, you're gonna be like, wow, I mean, I've come a long way. So I think pictures are good, and you can of course hide them away wherever you need to keep anybody from seeing them, but they're a nice thing for you to have. Another important thing is to not obsess over the number on the scale. I mean, I did mention that I would write down my weight every 9 days, but that was just as a frame of reference to make sure that I was losing weight. You could still be losing weight, but not necessarily show up on the scales yet, because muscle does weigh more than fat. So let's say you're gaining muscle, which is good, but the number on the scale might not have gone down yet. The important thing is, are your clothes getting too big? Do you notice yourself getting more toned, and do you notice yourself being able to run or walk or go up and down a flight of stairs without getting winded? Those are also good ways to tell if your fitness level is improving. Don't be afraid of muscle. Especially as women, I think we all shy away from, oh, I don't want to be too muscular, but I think most of the programs now that you're going to find are set up for women that are specifically, you know, to tone and tighten and elongate the muscles, but not to bulk up. I mean, you could do that if you wanted to, certainly, but I think the key to that is maybe a lighter weight but more repetitions, and that way you're going to get more muscle, but you're not going to get bulky. And muscle is really important because it's the key to a faster metabolism, which is what you want, because the faster your metabolism, the more calories you're going to burn every day. Even when you're resting and laying down and watching TV or whatever, the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn. I never really did much strength training when I had tried to lose weight before. I would do mostly cardio, and cardio is great and it's important, and you do need cardio. But I feel like that now that I've added a lot of strength training into my exercise routines, that has helped make a huge difference, I feel like, in the amount of weight that I have lost, and of course just the tone of my body has a lot more muscle tone. I never had upper body strength before. I never had arm muscles. Even when I was thin in school, like in high school, I never had upper body strength. And so I think I have more upper body strength and muscle and tone now in my upper body especially than I ever have. And like I mentioned before, losing weight and getting healthy is a marathon, not a sprint. And that motto, or whatever you want to call it, kind of comes into play in several different ways. You might want to lose a certain amount of weight by a certain time, like a vacation or a wedding or whatever, and that's okay. Losing weight and for the long term is going to take you longer amount of time than just going on a diet, losing 10 pounds, and then gaining it right back after whatever occasion you were trying to lose that weight for. It's really a journey that you should really set your own pace for, and not be in competition with anybody else, just yourself, and with realistic goals that you know that you've set for yourself based on how much time you're willing to devote to exercise, how much you're willing to cut out of your diet that's unhealthy, and just, you know, the decisions that you're choosing to make. You rush yourself too much to see results. It creates stress, and it makes it harder to stick with whatever you're doing to try to lose weight. It's because it just seems like a frenzy to try to hurry up and get it done versus really enjoying it and trying to find exercise that you really love to do and foods that you really love to eat that are healthier. And so I just think keeping in mind that it is a marathon and not a sprint is really important. Also, when you have those days when you want to pig out on a big piece of cake. You know, if you were on some kind of a strict diet where you want to lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks and you had a big piece of chocolate cake, you'd probably freak out and think that you'd sabotaged your whole thing. But if you know that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and you know that you're going to pick right up where you left off, and you're going to exercise that day anyway, even though you did have that cake, and you're going to be eating healthy again at your next meal, even though you had that big dessert. Those things, and knowing that it's a long-term, lifetime lifestyle, not a diet, really I think is where the difference is between losing weight and keeping it off, and losing weight for maybe a month and then gaining it back plus some. I hope that some of those tips were helpful. I am certainly not perfect. I am certainly no model, and I still have some weight that I want to lose / more toning that I want to work on, and those are some of the things that I want to work on and continue to work on for 2015. But I just felt like I wanted to share that with you guys to kind of tell you what I did, because it is the first time that I've actually successfully lost that amount of weight, and healthily, I think, and, you know, setting realistic goals for myself instead of making just this big giant goal and then not knowing how to get to that point. These are the things that I did to get to that point, and I thought maybe it would help some of you guys. Next fitness videos, I have a couple coming up. I have one that's all my favorite workout DVDs and YouTube channels. I have one that's about my running story, because I have become kind of a runner. I don't want to say that, because to me a runner is like a marathon runner. I'm not a marathon runner, but you know, I have been running, I guess I should say. And so I'm going to have a video about that and just some other things. So let me know if you guys have any questions, any video requests that you would like for me to make, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.